government can put in immediate actions to end the harm, and then the free market, though, will do a much better job at ending it for good. We are winning the fight to protect children. So welcome back to the channel today, everyone, and while I may be taking some time off from my live show, I decided to still bring you some content. And I really wanted to share this great news that I read this morning, because we are winning the fight to protect children. Time magazine put out an article that shows malpractice insurance companies are denying doctors coverage for performing gender-affirming care on minors. I mean, this is huge. And it means I was right. If you've been listening to my content for a while, you know that I have long spoke about how the malpractice lawsuits like Chloe Cole's and others are really what's key to winning this fight, because it takes away the incentives for doctors to perform these procedures, especially in places like California and other states where they have basically become sanctuary states for this type of abuse on children. And yes, I've worked to pass bills, which I'm still unsure of as to how they'll stand up against 14th Amendment challenges. I still think the government can put in immediate actions to end the harm, and then the free market, though, will do a much better job at ending it for good. And that's what we're seeing here. And so let's look at this article real quick. So first it discusses a clinic in Illinois who started doing sex changes on minors after the neighboring state, Iowa, banned the practice. So basically clinics think that they're going to clean up and make a bunch of money without the competition that it would be in Iowa for the practice, and so they started doing the procedures, thinking that these procedures are a
huge money makers.
The clinic said, "I didn't anticipate that it was going to be a big deal." Then the insurance carrier's quotes came. The first one specifically excluded gender-affirming care for minors. The next response was the same, and then the one after that. By early November, more than a dozen malpractice insurance had declined to offer the clinic a policy. And so the article continues, nearly half the states have banned medical or surgical treatment for transgender youth. Independent clinics and malpractices located in states where such care is either allowed or protected have moved to fill that void for patients commuting or relocating across state lines. But as the risk of litigation rises for clinics, obtaining malpractice insurance on the commercial marketplace has become a quiet barrier to offer care. Even in states with legal protections for health care for trans people, in extreme cases, lawmakers have deployed malpractice insurance regulations against affirming care in states where courts have slowed or blocked anti-trans legislation. Now see, this is where the legislation actually helps the process in this case, because insurance companies are seeing this legislation as an increased risk for litigation. Because through your state, it allows it to happen. They still see other states as proof it is still a risky practice in the first place. The article puts it like this. Insurance industry advocates argue that higher premiums are justified because the rise in legislation surrounding gender-affirming care for minors means clinics are at an increased risk of being sued. If state laws increase the risk of civil liability for health professionals, premiums will be adjusted accordingly and appropriately to reflect the level of financial risk by the insured. That was Mike Stinton, Vice President of Public Policy and Legal Affairs at the Medical Professional Liabilities Association and Insurance Trade Associations. As well, if state law makes said procedure illegal, insurance won't cover it at all. That's kind of a common sense thing. They don't want to they could be sued by the state if they're providing insurance coverage for it, so that makes sense. So with all this said, some states have now passed laws on insurance providers to say that they have to provide this care regardless of laws in other states, and it has to be the same as they would for any other procedure, meaning like price and everything like that. So what will happen is either these providers will pull out of the state completely, or they will stay, in which case we need more brave souls to come forward with lawsuits to force medical providers from even wanting to perform these procedures or making insurance too high for all providers that they don't make any money. Because what will then happen is malpractice insurance rates will go sky high in those states, and eventually insurance companies will say the risk is not worth the reward. One clinic used in the article said they were expecting to pay $10,000 a year for medical practice insurance, and they were quoted $50,000. While insurance companies may not be able to use gender treatments as a means to raise premiums alone, they can raise premiums across the boards for all treatments, thus making doctors question if they can afford to keep performing the procedures or if raising the cost of the treatments will be too high for the patients to even be able to afford it, because it's either you eat the cost of the insurance or you pass it along to your customers. And so either way, somebody's going to have to make a choice to see whether it's even worth it, to provide it, because if customers can't pay for it, then there's no reason for a company to provide it. And if you're not providing it, there's no reason to pay a higher premium or pay, and have other companies pay higher premiums across the state, which means we end the practice as a whole in that state without any legislation. So there's a lot of questions that remain to be seen, and we still have a lot of work to do, but again, we are winning. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Click that like and subscribe button. Follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.